But talking about the network and talking about building tribes and building collectives is Tebogo.
A little bit about who I am. My name is Tebogo Lefifi. I'm the founder of Disruptive Advisory Board and founder of Africa-China Law Desk. I spent quite a bit of time, about a decade in China. So I love it when people talk about China. And I think it's today refreshing that I'm not talking about China and somebody else. Dr. Mamabuli, you covered China quite nicely. Very fascinating stories. So, sorry, I'm trying to, okay. What I'm part of with Disruptive Advisory Board, we basically 100% Black-owned African enterprise. We offer advisory board management services. So we help companies set up their goals and introduce them to governance, which I think, as Guy has mentioned, it is the most critical thing. You know, compliance. It's critical. So we basically work with young enterprises to, right at the beginning, introduce compliance as a concept. And we sort of try to have a soft approach to it, to sort of do it through coaching and through helping them set up diverse advisory boards. So about basically working with a collective and seeing how it works. I think we're all facing this new normal, and all the speakers have actually covered that. We're all collectively, operating in a very uncertain world that has become the new normal. Every day you wake up and you're not sure what the president will say. You're not sure if there'll be a solution tomorrow. We're not sure where your business is going. And we all know that we're not returning to the old normal. If people think post-COVID, you'll go back to where you were, where we were didn't work, and that's quite clear. And we need to sort of say, how do we learn from this and move forward? So this is, and as Dr. Mabu said, and the previous speaker, this could last for another 12 months if we're lucky. But we're looking at economies that will sort of have an L-shape recovery. So they've just dropped, and it's going to be an extended period. China's expecting like a U-shape, and we all want China to go in a U-shape, because as soon as China peaks, a lot of South Africans will peak. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs that actually procure from China and resell in their market. So we're all looking at what will China do. And China itself does not expect to recover from this within a year. And so we're basically all, facing this information overload. What should you do? Where do you go? Who do you listen to? Who's the expert? It's just a lot. This is a new opportunity, that doesn't work. It's just we're all in information overload, and we're at a point where we need to filter. And I like what Dr. Mabo said, stop watching television, stop watching the news. You obsess over the news and just bad news. So you need to curate your own news. And I think we're lucky that we're at an age where you can curate what you listen to and can be very deliberate about that. But ultimately, we're all in crisis management mode. But the irony of it is that the world all over, entrepreneurs are supposed to be the guidance to the community and the economy. We need them. They self-employed, they're going to, a lot of big companies are cutting down, and we're expecting that the entrepreneurs will basically pick up the slack. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of governments putting together stimulus packages for entrepreneurs, because we really, South Africa's economy has long relied on entrepreneurs as the engine of the economy. Economies like Canada have also always relied on entrepreneurs. China, you've got the Jack Ma's that are now icon, they call them, sorry, I forgot the word, but there's basically the guy who owns Huawei, the big guys in China. They're the entrepreneurs that economies like China expect them to take the slack and move the economy forward. So I think the status quo of a lot of entrepreneurs in the room and everywhere is that you're basically the key decision maker in your business. And at the moment you're sitting and say, with all this information overload, these uncertainties, where do you focus your attention in your business? Do you continue selling? Do you start a new business? Do you stop? Do you die? Do you just sit and get frustrated? Or you're basically trying to figure out, how do I cushion this blow of this new economy, letting people off or not making an income, the decision to close the business? How do you deal with that? And ultimately, how do you reach your clients during lockdown? In a country where data is very expensive, people don't even have the luxury of being on Zoom. So anybody who's on Zoom, I'd say you're probably one of the rich entrepreneurs that can actually afford on somewhere or other to be here. But How do you reach your client? You don't know how to build a website because you probably think that you don't have the skills. You can't drive to them. You can't call them. How do you reach them if you've closed? And I think the big challenge that how do you, even as a key decision maker, faced with letting people go, faced with all these challenges, how do you do it all by yourself? And then over and above that, you're faced with the innovator's dilemma or the founder's dilemma, and you're thinking, I don't have time. So if you're running a business that can operate on some level, you think, okay, I don't have time. I have to run everything. I have to be the market. I have to run a website. I have to sell. I have to deliver. I have to open the shop if you've got a shop. And you feel like you just don't have time to deal with anything else. You're waiting for your business to grow, or you're waiting for post-COVID where the stability so you can start, you can start being compliant. You think that you don't have time to fill those text forms. You don't have time to build a network. You know, you're basically just focusing on the core business. You're just trying to survive at the moment and sell or manufacture whatever that you're working with. So you end up working in the business rather than on the business. So you're not coming up with strategies of how to a post-COVID period. So some of you are basically trying to navigate the chaos. You coming up with a plan, which basically will include communicating with your stakeholders, coming up with innovative solutions of, you know, how do you repurpose your business? You using resources and you're staying informed, which I would say, you know, you need to listen to. If you're curating your information and you want to know what's going on with COVID every day, just rely on WHO, World Health Organization information. Stop with the Twitter, stop with Black Twitter telling you what's going on. You know, rely on the key source of information. Listen to what government is saying in terms of if the stimulus packages, how does it work? Talk to your industry chambers if you've got any in the neighborhood about some of the resources that they might have to support your business. You need to manage your teams, which basically could mean repurposing the people that work with you. It means get your team, get your employees, you know, even before you let them go, think about, work collectively with them about solutions for the future, because you might need those resources back after COVID. So don't, be careful how you let people go, or be careful if the positions have become irrelevant, think about how can you use them in other areas. So you might need to know their skill set and to repurpose them. And ultimately, you need to think beyond COVID, because this will come to an end. It will be a new dawn, but you need to think about how the new normal is going to look like in about a year or 3 years or 6 months from now on. And you might be wrong in your plan, but you don't sit and say, I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to go with the flow. And I'll say, once you've made this plan, you know, plan your trade and trade your plan until it changes. Because if you don't have a plan and if you're not trading that plan, you're not being accountable to it. You don't know where you're going wrong, and you can't measure, you know, what needs to be fixed and where you're going. So my experience and my recommendation and what we do is we recommend that people create or find a tribe or collective to effectively get you to manage through a crisis, and to also see beyond, because your employees might not be sufficient, or they might not be at the level of skill that you want them to be. Another speaker said that you might not want to divulge your strategy because you're scared they might talk to a competitor, but you can find an external tribe or collective that can help you through this at a strategic level. And you're all probably thinking, everybody's been talking about networks, everybody's been talking about surrounding yourself with an accountant, a lawyer, but how do you do this? Where do you find the right people if you're in a neighborhood where you feel like everybody's like you, or everybody's too close to your business? How do you structure interactions with them to get the most out of it? You know, if you're going to have 3 people that you can identify, how do you, when do you meet them? Where do you find them? How do you talk to them? How do you call somebody as experienced as Guy, you know, or you, Andrew, or Dr. Mahmoud? How do you interact with them? And that can be quite scary, because as a young entrepreneur, as a young African entrepreneur, we have a culture where you don't speak to your elders until you're spoken to. And you might think, how do I reach out and talk to these people with as peers, you know? And also, how do you make sure that you don't lose time setting it up? As I said, you're running a business, you're trying to sell, you're trying to survive. And here we are telling you all this intellectualized perspective about, you know, find a collective, manage your business, do all of this. And it's a challenge, but the reality is that it's essential. You actually have to set up these things. You have to make time. But so I'm here and saying, don't do it alone. And sort of hoping that through this conversation, I can give you the guidelines of how do you take everything that you've learned today about the value of network, the value of information, and work with other people to harness your knowledge to work in your business. I think a smart entrepreneur and coach, I basically regard him as my virtual coach, Seth Godin, says, a tribe is a group of people connected to one another, and connected to a leader and connected to an idea. And in this regard, you will be the leader of your tribe. And the idea is helping you survive COVID. And I think you've got a lot of people, virtual, online, in your neighborhood, that are committed to the idea of making you survive. Nobody's interested in seeing SMMEs crash. So you must know that you've got a lot of people that are rooting for you to survive. You need to basically be the leader and connect them to this idea of helping you survive. So the way that we work is that we basically see advisory boards, mastermind groups, and virtual co-working spaces as the tribal forces that you need to be extremely deliberate about in setting them up so that they work with your business. So I'm going to go through the how-to of all three of them, so that you've got the tools and the power to go set these up should you make time to do it. So an advisory board basically is a great way to invite industry leaders into an ongoing relationship with your company or your enterprise or your shop, so they can be partners in your success. And I think at this point, even in your survival. So an advisory board, you've all probably heard the word board of directors, but an advisory board is different from a board of directors. They don't have the power to make the final decisions. They make recommendations. They don't carry the same liability as a board of directors to the company. I think Guy has actually spoken at length about what this would look like and what it means. They're also not your management team, which basically means they're not too close to the problem, so they can actually give you an outsider's point of view. Then they're not too involved in the problem. And I think one of the speakers also mentioned agility as a necessary characteristics right now. And the advisory board tends to be more agile than the board of directors. There's no quorum. You don't have issues of elections. There's less politics. They're simple to put together. They're flexible at how they meet. You can literally meet under a tree, so it doesn't look like when you see board of directors, you always think of a big round table with guys in suits and ties. An advisory board is as informal as you need it to be, as it needs to work for you. You could meet anywhere, basically. So they're a little bit more agile. You can meet anyhow. If you tell them get on Zoom, no one's going to worry about resolutions and minutes being taken in compliance, but they actually do get you to that compliance. And in a lot of cases, they're inexpensive or free, although I don't advocate for free, which we'll talk about later, and how you can make them, how you can reward them without actually spending cash. So this has already been covered in detail. So why do you need an advisory board? So a lot of you might think I'm a one-man business. I don't even make 200,000 a year, or I'm at concept phase, or my business is going down. But why is it an essential part of what you need in your tribe? I think the first is that they're going to help you manage the risk that we facing right now. You'll basically have two other people to think with. They'll help you sustain the growth if you're growing, or they'll get you back to sustainability. They also provide inaccessible solutions that you might not have inside your business, inside your chamber, inside government, but they basically would come in and offer you, like I think as Guy said, if you've got a lawyer and you're trying to sign a contract, which we say to all our clients, make sure that you sign a contract all that time, even if it's just a one-page contract. When you employ somebody, make sure you sign a contract. But you might not know, where do I get an employment contract in one page that makes sense? Where do I get a non-disclosure agreement if I'm going to meet with somebody and share my ideas? So you basically, your advisory board will have expertise that will help you on these issues. If you don't know how to manage your balance sheet, one of your advisory board members could be in accounting. They'll help you do that. They also, which is the reason that we call this disruptive, is that we're already in a disruptive world, but you also need to disrupt how you do business at this point. It is being disrupted. So you need other people who are going to come up with disruptive innovations and new approaches. So that's what the advisory board will bring. They also will bring market intelligence, because we spoke about knowledge makers earlier. And I think I asked, if you're a millennial and you're an entrepreneur, and we're talking about people that have spent 30 years acquiring knowledge, and you're thinking, I'm 21 years old, I'm doing business, where do I get all this knowledge? And that's where your advisory board comes in. They basically plug in the gap where you don't have the same knowledge about the market or the industry that you're in. And they bring this market intelligence, which is usually expensive, as you heard the previous speaker, whether it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour, a knowledge expert will always charge you the same. So bring somebody like that in your advisory board. You're getting all this market intelligence for free, and sometimes, or even they're more willing to teach, they're more willing to mentor you and share this knowledge with you. And I think one of the most, actually, the reason that a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to talk or don't want to bring an advisory board, that they will challenge you. They'll challenge your assumptions. They'll challenge the assumptions that you make about the situation that we're in. They'll challenge the assumptions that you have about your business and where you think it needs to go. They will even challenge you about your goals or what you think your goal is. Once you think, oh, I think this is my unique selling proposition. And it can be a painful process, but when you have your aha moments and they've challenged you, they make you think. They get you to think about things and to sort of say, this is where I need to be, or this is where my peers are, or this is where the trend is going. So they get you to correct a lot of assumptions that might not be good for your company or not help you in managing the risk. As Dr. Mamabolo said, you need networks, you need contacts. Advisory boards have lots of those. I think all of us that have been speakers in this room, we've got knowledge, we've got contacts. I've lived in China for 10 years. I'm in conversations with Chinese crowds and community 24/7. And I get a lot of insights. I'm always willing to connect people and open networks for the younger generation. And I think more than anything, if you've got an advisory board, they're not biased. They're not there just to agree with you. They don't need to do you that favor. They're not scared of you like your management team is. So a lot of people, which I've seen a lot of companies where I serve on a board and the chairman is also the CEO and the shareholder and the owner, and everybody on the board is scared to speak because they know they're getting fired if they say anything that contradicts the chairperson. But an external advisory board does not have the same fear. They're only interested in helping you grow and sustain. And above all, I think when you work with an advisory board, because the first time you need your board, you're going to have to present your company, what you do, what you're all about. So it kind of forces you to set goals and be accountable. And I'd like to say accountability is not a bad word. You have a lot of people that will say, I'm looking for somebody to help me become accountable on a daily basis, which was actually one of the reasons that I actually went into this service, because I had a lot of people come to me and say, can you help me be accountable? Can you have bi-weekly conversation where you help me be accountable to my goals? So that's basically why you'd want an advisory board, because it gets you to move forward and provides the skills that you might not have in your business. Sorry, my screen is not moving. Do I still have control?
You do.
Oh, okay, there was a bit of a delay.
There we go. We can see what to consider. Oh, it's bounced back.
Okay, so some of the reviews when we looked at entrepreneurs that have worked with advisory boards and the results that they came up with. This was a study that was done in Canada, and I think I'm hoping that in 3 years' time, somebody will do a PhD on this or a scientific research on where we are with the concept of advisory board for SMEs. It's still not a popular concept in South Africa, but we're hoping that in about 3 years we'll be there. But in Canada, a study that was done is 86% of entrepreneurs who have an advisory board said that they experience significant growth in their business as a result of the advisory board. So that basically shows there is value that it's going to add into your business. It also helped them with the good preparation for a possible formal structure. Guy mentioned some of the families in South Africa that you've seen that started as a corner shop, and now you've got the Mapunya Mall, or you've got multinationals. And you're not going to grow from a small company into a JSE listed company without at some point having a board of directors. So having an advisory board is almost like a practice session to get you there. So that by the time you grow and you need a board, you're familiar with you've got a culture of having a formal structure that that basically is going to be sustainable for decades. And a lot of companies said it elevated their business status and helped them improve their reputation and image. This I know. I also had a conversation with some bankers when we were starting this, to because we were wondering, is there a need for an advisory board? And I think some of the senior people in this room, you've heard somebody say, can you sit on my advisory board, or can I put your name or your face on a bid? I'm tendering and I need a few people that I can put on. But if you have an advisory board that is not just a letterhead board, but it's actually effective in your business status improves a little bit. Bankers look favorably on entrepreneurs that have advisory boards because they know that there's accountability, that the money the risk is being managed, their money is safe. So it does definitely improve your reputation and image. But also, if I'm hiring a company that has an advisory board, I look around the team and the company that they keep, or the knowledge experts that they have around them, and that I would look more favorably in working or hiring them than that doesn't have. So other things I've mentioned earlier, which the reviews came up, and this is basically empirical evidence of companies that have experienced advisory board, that they broadened their knowledge skill, they avoided costly mistakes, which at this time a lot of people will make a lot of costly mistakes, but we really cannot afford it because we need to be bootstrapping, we need to be working on almost cost-effective strategies, but you want to make sure that you make the right decisions. It also helped a lot of companies break down their management isolation. So a lot of entrepreneurs, you're either a solopreneur or you're employed in your company, or you basically are not talking to your management because you're scared or they're looking at you to come up with all the solutions. So if you're working with a board, you're not isolated. You're not working at things by yourself. You're not being lonely in your business, or you're not cutting yourself off. As Dr. Mamabolo said, a black hole of isolation just gets bigger and bigger. So your advisory board is basically that team that's going to pull you out of that black hole to work with a team. And that alone, I work with a board that every quarter, and now with the crisis, we meet more often, but it sort of helps with the void of, being in a lockdown and working in a small space by myself. And I think more than anything is that a lot of people say it ensures succession in a short period. This might work for bigger companies that might feel that they would want to maybe explore other things and they want to leave their business or sell their business to another company, or there's been boards where the CEO has been fired, or the CEO is not suitable as a CEO, but they need to work in the operations of the company. But once you have a board, you kind of feel confident that even when you're not in the business, there will be succession because you've got a group of people that have an oversight on the business, and that will ensure that your business strategy has continuity. This is a bit repetitive in terms of setting up an advisory board. And this is the part that takes time. You need a checklist when you're setting up an advisory board. Guy mentioned that the people that you're going to put on board, before you meet them, you need to have very clear goals and aims, what you want your advisory board to do. So how we work, when you have an advisory board, you don't expect them to solve your problems. You don't expect them to solve everything. So be very clear about what do you want to achieve? What's the aim of you putting the advisory board or installing an advisory board in your company? So you might say, I need to migrate my business from analog to digital. How do I do it? I don't have the skills. Or I need to meet new people. Or I need to redefine my market. I need to redefine my unique selling proposition. So be very clear about, I'm going to get an advisory board. They're not going to, as I say, solve everything, but be very clear. So also when you communicate with them, you can articulate what do you want them to do? What do you want them to achieve for you? So you need to also define the relationships that you're going to have, how you're going to meet. As agile as they are, you need to have clear expectations. You need to think about how you're going to propose. If you've got a partner in your business, think about how you're going to propose to your partner about, let's have an advisory board. You might be in a family business that feel that they don't want external people, but you're the one in operations and you need an external team. You need to think about those things. If you're working with other people, how do you bring this board in? So there's a long list of things that you need to consider in terms of before you put together an advisory board, but before you go out and talk to people. I mean, it's very easy to contact someone and say, can you be on my advisory board? And they say yes, but they'll come with a whole list of questions that you need to think about before you start. I think the pain, and once you have all and you've checked your list, and now you need to go out and say, okay, I'm going to get an advisory board. Start very small. You can start with just 2 people that you say, I need you guys to be on my advisory board. In considering where we are now, we'll meet 3 times in a year. Some people have advisory boards that meet once a year. And that actually helps with compliance, because you know that at the end of a year, you're going to meet a group of people that you need to show your balance sheet to, that you need to say to them, I've been staying on track. But start very small so that you get it right the first time, and you don't start with 8 people that you can't coordinate their times. They're not always available and you don't know when to meet them. So start with a team that's easy to manage administratively. And also I'll say avoid all stars. It might seem like you want to get everybody that's like super brilliant, that has experience, but there are other people that don't have experience, but they've got amazing insights. And I think what we do in our models, that we call it disruptive, because we deliberately put in millennials in our business, in our advisory board, because they, as a guy, you said your grandkids, they can figure out your technology. And they probably have been on Zoom 3 years ago while you're still trying to catch up with it. I personally look at TikTok and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with TikTok? I'm still not on Instagram. I'm still on Facebook. I'm still on LinkedIn. So I've got a personal advisory board that runs my personal achievements because I'm doing a PhD. And the person that's on my board is 21, and he holds me accountable every month to see that, are you using this system? Are you using this compliance? Are you building this in your life to achieve what you want? So if you've got all stars, they might be all set in their own ways, and they might not be able to disrupt, or they might not always be available, to work with you. So get a mix of people. Everybody's valuable in your business if they're focused. So don't basically think that you need to get a high-end lawyer. You could get a graduate who's in a law school whose specialty might be contract, and they might be able to help you with your compliance issue. Or you might get somebody who's studying labor law who needs the grades to, review labor contracts. Use those kind of people and think about it. And as I say, make your team diverse in terms of skills, in terms of demographics. And I think we're very lucky that we're in a country where we've got natural advantage of diversity. As somebody said, we've got a rainbow. The light in our genie is diverse. It's all 7 colors. So think about that. Think about having women. Think about having young people. Think about old white men that actually have been with the economy forever. On my board, I've got an old white man guy that is 70 years old, and he's seen it all. And I've got a 21-year-old. And I've got a woman who's actually served as an advisory board member for the last 4 or 5 decades. So they basically, I've got people that know that have experience, but they're diverse. You can't, if you put them together to have a conversation, you will not expect, but we get a lot of insight. But what it also does is that we then have this opportunity to teach each other. If you've got a millennial and somebody who's an old hand in experience, there's a transfer of skills or knowledge. So you're also serving beyond you. This encourages the advisory board to want to serve on your advisory board, because they're not only just teaching, they're also learning. So in terms of if you're recruiting, if you're wondering, how do you basically get these people? Where do you find them? And I'll say, use your network or use a consulting company. There are a lot of HR companies that recruit that might have the skills just sitting around. Contact them and find out if they can recruit somebody for you. If you're not going to pay them now, you might pay them later. You might be giving them the ability to, or the skills, appeal to people's sense of benefit. How would this, if they recruit for you, how would they benefit from that? And as I said, we're a consulting company that also helps companies create boards. But there's few others. There's Institute of Directors that actually, if you go on LinkedIn and you check Institute of Directors, there are a lot of people that will put that title in their name. That means they've been trained to serve on the board, and they might be available to work as your advisor. So work with that also. And as I said, identify and place you can identify and place up to 8 people. So you might say, okay, out of the 2, I want to meet 2 people on a regular basis, but I want, at the end of the year, I want 8 people. But, you know, the higher the number you have, the more complex it might get for an advisory board. So that is a process that be very deliberate. Don't just pick your friend or the next person that you come across. Plan and think about it. Then also, I think something that you're going to have to do is when you sit and you think, I want to set up an advisory board, is you think about the frequency of when they should meet. You think about how do you meet them. I'd actually say before you even meet for board, sort of sit for 2 strategy sessions to set your goals and prioritize what the advisory board will work on the whole year. So at the beginning, when you start, if you say, you know, between today, based on this advice, and guys said, think about 5 action things that you're going to do. And I'll say what every speaker has said today is get your network right. So go and take your notebook and put that, well, after compliance, actually. I'll say the second thing you do is that go get your advisory board, you know, in any form whatsoever. Put a goal on, you know, within a month, I'm going to get the dividends of this conversation, that I'm going to have a deliberate new network of people that are going to inject something new in my business. And the first thing you have to start thinking about is that what kind of strategy session are you going to have with them? How are you going to get them to meet? So, you know, basically think about all these things about, you know, how much are you going to include in the conversation? But the upside of an advisory board is that you actually get to include them in your business and marketing profile. So as you reposition your business and you reach out to new clients and funders, you'll have basically a team of 5 new people that are injecting certain skills in your business. So also think about that. Think about how you profile yourself, because you're going to have to sell yourself and your business to advisors. You know, get in. It takes half a page to come up with your, I think, elevators pitch, or, you know, a profile of, this is what I do, this is who we are, and this is what we deliver, and this is our unique selling profile. So your company profile doesn't need to be a sophisticated 10-page marketing document, or at best you can even, I use the Guy Kawasaki 10-page slide, which is very, very simple and gets you to the point that you can sort of take it to your board of advisors. And at some point, then you include them in that profile as you're remarketing your business. In terms of what do you offer these people that will come on board? As when you're preparing, come up with a board agreement. I can share there's a board agreement called FAST, which is a template. It's global, it's international. So you don't need to overthink about what you offer them, but it also protects in terms of confidentiality of information you'll be sharing, because sometimes it's information you don't want to share with your family, or you don't want to share with your business employees, but you will be sharing with your, or you have an IP in the intellectual property in your business that you want to share with your board. But this is, as Americans say, you're going to have an open kimono approach, which is like full disclosure with your board. So the first thing is that get this agreement, because you want to be as open as possible. You want to be vulnerable with your board of advisors, but so make sure that you sign the agreement so they don't take your ideas and go open their own business. Because sometimes they look smarter than you, or they might have been operationally in the business that you're in, but you want to make sure that they don't take your ideas and go grow their own business, but they're there for you. And anybody who refuses to sign this agreement, just move on. They're not ready to be on your team. Have templates in terms of how you're going to, as agile as the advisory board is, you usually get an advisory board an hour every 3 months. So you want to make sure that you're very clear when you're going to meet them. What's your agenda? Keep the minutes for yourself. Again, what Guy said, walk around with a notebook. I've got 10 notebooks around me for every purpose that I have. But when you go meet them, have clear deliverables, keep minutes for yourself. As I said in the beginning, they're not your board of directors. Whatever decisions that they make, they're recommendations. So unlike a board of directors, they don't have to keep the minutes, but keep them to also retain continuity so that the next board meeting, you know the goals that they've set that you need to achieve, and you can also help them have continuity. And also then your company information. So anyone that you're going to approach and say, can you be on my board or can you be on my network, have these 3 things set before you approach anyone. I've got a 3-page NDA that if I call somebody and say, hey, I've got this idea I want to share with you, were you interested? And they say, yes. I say, okay, I've got an NDA, I'm gonna send it to you, that digitally accepted before I can share my idea with you. So protect your ideas. You're all going to be big post-COVID. Make sure that you protect your ideas now and your business concepts now. If you survive this, you will have the magic that everybody wants to have, or you will have knowledge expertise. I think somebody said at some point we're going to be COVID experts. You know, we're going to be the next generation's COVID experts. So you basically, as I say, protect your ideas. So what we do then overall is that we work with, and this is a model that you can put in place yourself, or you can come to us to help you. We work with aspiring board members, which are millennials, experts that want to be trained, because a lot of young Africans, which is the reason that it also inspired us, they've never served on boards. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know what to do. So we train a lot of aspiring board members to work with entrepreneurs so that they can scale up. And for that reason, we also then can afford to help much smaller clients. So look around for aspiring board members if you don't work with a consultancy, and get them to serve on your board and give them some, support them with information on how to become better board members or advisory members. So any questions at this point about, I'm still going to continue. I can talk on and on, but I think before I move on, if anybody has questions about advisory board, I could pause here and take questions.
That's fine. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. There's no questions right at the moment. I'm also conscious of time. We said we'd finish by 5:30, so I'll be very, very short on the funding. So Tebogo, you're welcome to take a little bit more time, because I think you've got a little bit more that you can add. And obviously from our side, from Metseng's side, I'm very happy to carry over one of the sessions into next week. We run these webinars every Friday, so we can add that. And that's not your fault. We started early and there've been some technical issues. So quite happy to do that for the guys, just so we do finish on time. Okay. But there's nothing at the moment, so you can carry on.
Okay. Well, I think I'm almost more than 80% through. So the second way to create a tribal force, or to find a tribal force, is through mastermind groups. Basically, there's a friendly alliance, as Napoleon Hill basically in 1920 said, it's a friendly alliance of one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. And I mean, it's a concept that predates 1920, but Napoleon Hill made it very famous. If you have time, if you're in a reading mode at the moment, go read Think and Grow Rich, or the first time that he mentioned it was in The Law of Success, but a lot of people basically look at Think and Grow Rich. And this basically came out after he interviewed more than 100 American millionaires, and basically success leaves clues, and this is the clue that he left behind after interviewing these people, that mastermind groups have been an essential part of a lot of successful people. So if you work with a mastermind, the way they work, you can also search about how different masterminds work, but they basically, if you're part of a mastermind, there's different outcomes and there's different activities that you can do with a mastermind. My favorite one is basically hot seat session. I also host bi-weekly mastermind groups with our entrepreneurs, where we put one person on a hot seat, and not that we grill them, or it doesn't look as hellish as that chair looks, but basically what we do with the hot sessions is somebody comes in for 10 minutes, one entrepreneur will present a problem that they're dealing with that week in 3 minutes, and all the entrepreneurs in the group discuss variables that they need to consider. So this is different from an advisory board that is just on the spot. It's one micro problem, and because they happen every bi-week, you end up with recommendations, you end up with homework of what you need to achieve in the next 2 weeks. And when you come in the next 2 weeks, if you say, well, I don't know how to go online, so people might say, okay, you've got LinkedIn, hire a person, or somebody in the mastermind can say, I can help you set up a LinkedIn account, or I can help you set up a very simple Wix landing page, or they basically the idea of a hot seat is that you've got a whole lot of people that come with creativity, that basically listen, that ask questions and come up with various ideas. But if you choose to set up a mastermind group, it's also very agile. It could be focused around a specific skill where you can say every weekend we'll have a marketing mastermind or compliance, and I think, as you said, navigating these websites is a nightmare, or trying to file your tax clearance. You can have a mastermind where we talk about compliance. So we actually make compliance interesting and not like a snooze fest. So, and you can invite Guy at the kind of workshop and say, can you come talk to us about compliance, or advise whoever's on the hot seat about where they are in compliance, where they need to go. You can also give each other 30-day challenges to basically say, you'll achieve this by 30 days. People set goals and they come back and they'll basically say, we've delivered. It's a very focused, it's not a group of friends that get together and gossip about what's going on in business or the economy or the president or politics. It's just very, very focused. It's octane. It's basically, it's almost like an advisory board on steroids. But it gets you somewhere, and it's usually very friendly and not as scary. And it's basically sometimes a space to brainstorm ideas that will help you navigate successfully where you are now. So as I said, you basically have possible activities and you've got some outcomes. You'll have difficult conversations. You will share resources. As I said, if you don't know how to actually work with a website, well, you can get somebody to help you do that. Some people just come to share success stories, because if after a long week, a long heavy week, you just want to hear good stories. You just want to hear that, somebody's doing well. And you might use that success story as a benchmark to sort of say, going forward. If I say to you, I use this application and it got me 10 new clients, you want to hear stories like that. You don't want to hear problems all the time, or you don't want to be inundated with negativity. It was said, surround yourself with positive people. So make sure that these sessions, these mastermind groups, are all about positivity and moving you forward. So basically, then you ask, why should you join a mastermind, or why should you have an advisory board? You grow your network because people in the mastermind know other people. You'll gain accountability. So you basically have consistent meetings with people helping you become accountable. From week to week, since COVID, I've moved much, much faster with a mastermind group than without, because every week I'm moving with a new target. And I also find I can't be wishy-washy about what my goal is if I have a mastermind, because if this week I come and say I have a problem with marketing, and next week I've got a problem with finance, somebody in the mastermind is going to say, no, what about the conversation we had last week? Or if you're flip-flopping, if you say, I'm doing this business and next week that one and next week that one, they hold you accountable, so that you basically, as I say, plan your trade and trade your plan, or else you're going to be lost. So mastermind is very good for that. Similar to, as I said, they are like advisory board. They offer the same benefits. You get new insights, you get collaborations, you get encouraged because you're working with the people that get you fired up, and if you're stuck, they get you unstuck. So they basically give you the confidence to go out there and work your plan. There's also, as I say, you discover new ideas that you would not have had, and it's a great time to be part of one. It's because everybody's at home, everybody has time to be on social media, but everybody's going through the same thing. There's the common understanding of what we're all going through, and it's a great time. And they also help you remind you that we're not in this alone. There are other people that are going through the crisis, but they're being positive, they're moving forward, they're coming up with plan B. Some of the most famous masterminds, I've heard that Bill Gates is also part of a mastermind. Elon Musk is part of the mastermind. The guys at Facebook have masterminds, although they're very secretive, because usually those masterminds are by invitation. So you're not going to just find them lying around. You've got masterminds that will cost $100,000 US, which is almost close to 2 million to be part of, to some that are free. In South Africa, there's some that are 5,000 rands. But you can start your own, that they're not impossible to begin. I mean, if you don't know how to, we can also talk, and I can help guide you on setting up one, or you can join a very inexpensive mastermind. So if you find on Facebook, there are a couple of masterminds that might be for specific purpose that you want to achieve with your business. And when I saw this yesterday, somebody said, Jesus and his apostles were the most influential mastermind of all time. And I was like, I don't even know if I should be offended or encouraged by this, on how dope Jesus was. that he came up with an idea pre-time. But I mean, you all know that the impact that he was operating during the Jewish period, and just the 12 of them managed to bring a new word to, you know, a whole generation of people. Benjamin Franklin also was part of a mastermind, and he actually credits them for his presidency. He consulted with his mastermind throughout his presidency. He basically relied on it. C.S. Lewis, Lord of the Rings and the Chronicles of Narnia, you all have seen Lord of the Rings or at least know of it. It actually was refined in a mastermind group. Theodore Roosevelt also was part of a mastermind. So you basically can see that it's not a new concept, but the most successful people have all been part of a mastermind. And sometimes they've called it a secret society, but it's all been part of a mastermind. And they've all met in the most awkward places. Some met playing, as in the tennis club used to play tennis. Some used to meet at, the Inklings met at a bar in England. So you don't have to, it's not a rigid as a board of directors. So if you basically take a lead, as I said, success leaves clues, and this is what some of the most successful people have left behind for us to learn from, is the value of a tribe through a mastermind. This is very much, I'm not gonna go too much into this, but this is how we work in terms of they've created an environment that brings together people that want to set up masterminds, people that want to have board meetings, people that want to find a tribe. We basically provide an ecosystem where you can easily find a tribe, or we walk through you with what do you want to achieve so that you find the right type of tribe to surround yourself with. Or if you're too scared to approach somebody, we will help you with approaching the right people through our networks, or we'll basically do the cold calling for you if that's necessary. So I'm also gonna pause here, but maybe, bye.
Hello?
That's fine. I think there was Godfrey
Okay.
and Kagiso for some reason went unmute, but let's see. Kagiso, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, Andrew.
Okay, no problem at all. Godfrey?
No, Andrew, I don't have a question at all. I was usually I was busy with looking at mastermind classes that normally happen here in SA, but I needed to get a clear picture that there are different masterminds. When I was at Tebogo refer our audience to Facebook, there are different master classes with different missions and visions. So I think she have to be specific, like, because many people are saying they're offering people master classes. So when you attend those master classes, there's nothing that you are grabbing there. There is actually none. It's different topics. They have said it's about this, and when people just hear it's about a master classes, they just go and attend or just go and sign up, and at the end they don't get anything, or they tend to not get according what they expected as people. Because at the moment, when you just go and search master classes, it's 3 or 2 happening the same day at the same time. Then when you attend them, there's nothing that you are getting there.
Absolutely. I think people realize that the word mastermind is chewable. It's a catchphrase. It's like everybody, it's selling the mastermind, because the minute you put a mastermind, it sounds smart. But I think if before you join a mastermind, be very clear that you're going to look for a mastermind. What are you looking for? But I also say, think about the possible activities that they say they host. Don't join a mastermind that has more than 5 people at this point, because you want your available, your time is thin, as I said earlier in the presentation. As an entrepreneur, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to sell. You basically might not even have more than an hour to spend with a mastermind. And the most effective ones that I've had is that I don't sit in the room and just watch. If I have 5 people, if I'm running a mastermind, I also make sure that every person is at least 10 minutes on the hot seat. So that's why I said I prefer the hot seat session, because you get to participate. You're not just sitting in a room and watching somebody speak in front and say you've been to a mastermind class. You basically you're getting the attention, and find out who's in the mastermind group. What kind of skills do they have, and what kind of expertise do they have? They must be as diverse as possible. But let's say you want to go into a marketing workshop type mastermind. Find out who's participating. If anybody in the room has the skills, or everybody's as crippled as you are. Yeah. Or if anybody's in the same, you might want something. If you're an electrician, you might think, oh, I want somebody who's an electrician. Everybody must be an electrician. So I had a mastermind group that you basically had a restaurateur and an engineer and an environmentalist, right? The engineer understands processes. So they understand that if you walk in a restaurant first thing in the morning, what is the process that you actually have to design throughout the day from the time you open to the time you close? But they're not diverse. They can't think outside the box. So you've got the restaurants advising them on other things. So you basically have to, I think the fewer people are in a mastermind group, the better it is. So I would say anything from 3 to 6. 8 is too much even, unless you're there for 2 hours.
Okay.
And if it's 3, you can also run a 1 hour session where for 40 minutes, this week it's about you. And then it's about the next person. So basically go into a mastermind that has very clear activities that they run. So you know that how it operates, how it's structured, and they've got very clear outcomes, and you're not being lectured to, but you're engaging.
All right. Then there is this way that there's been going through. Every speaker spoke about it, a solopreneur. Then before I forget, I wanted to add something. Hello?
Yes, we're listening, Godfrey.
All right. I just want to add something about solopreneur. Sometimes we go together. We've got a different vision. Some people get attracted because of the fame. Maybe the business is booming, the PR is there in the business. So I get attracted just because of the PR, not because of the vision. So when you are a vision holder in a company or in an organization, then things started to say like you tend to lose. They tend to grasp more, to know more about the business. When you already recruited them, they tend to know more about the business. So when they comes in to the business, they saw that, no man, this is tough. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So this is tough. Then they tend to repel from you. So hearing about this word solopreneur, my wish is like we must go together, we must be together, we must partner, but we must be as transparent as possible. We must tell everyone that this is my vision, this is what I started this, and this is what I want to achieve. Not only showing the result that, no, I want to get this and this and this and that, and I'm getting this and that and that. We need to share, we need to be as transparent as possible so that the next person that is coming into my organization know that my organization is doing this and this and this, and we've got this strength, we've got this weakness, we've got this, everything. Like everything, we need to be transparent. Like even everyone, when I say I'm approaching Tebogo to join the advisory board, advisory board, I need to be transparent with Tebogo in everything so that Tebogo can help me. Tebogo said something that you don't need to be shy. You need to talk about your weakness. You need to talk about your strength so that people can be able to help you. So I was just adding on this solopreneur. You don't need just to be together just for the sake of being in partnership or going together. You need to check the people's vision, the people's mission, whether they are the same as yours, rather than saying, no, I just need people to come together and form this thing. We need to everything. Yes, we need to check everything. We need to check this and this, that these people, they've got the same vision as me, they've got the same mission as me, or their visions or missions, they are similar as mine.
Exactly. And I think that's why I said one of the things that you need to do is sign NDAs. No matter how small your idea is, have a 3-page simple NDA. If you come to a mastermind or you're creating a mastermind, everybody in the mastermind has, we give everybody a package to say anything that's discussed in a mastermind, you are non-competing, it's confidential, and there's a level of integrity that's expected. So that also will make it easy for you to fully, as I say, open the kimono, about what you're doing and what you're planning to do. So I completely agree. I was the same when I started this with my partner, because we had to sign an NDA. So we're going together into business while we're creating and forming this and registering and conceptualizing it. There is an expected confidentiality. So a lot of people that come into the masterminds will come, or they'll be recruited or invited with expectation of confidentiality and non-compete. And I think some of them will actually be curated because they can't compete, but they're there to help you with your vision, and they're there to help you be successful. So the intention of being in that kind of group is very clear and very well articulated. It should not be vague at all. So if you join a mastermind that is not articulated, these things, leave it, move on to the next one. And I think basically in business, the first person that you come across might not necessarily be your partner. So you need to be willing to spend time. And I'll say, allocate an hour a day on working on your business, not in the business, so that you have time to do these things. You have time to do your papers. You have time to do your compliance. And I think in the next page, I'll also suggest one of the tools that in working with a tribe, how do you do that? So I'm just going to wrap up quickly about something that has worked. It's virtual co-working groups. I think somebody also earlier said that they had to cancel their WeWork agreement because WeWork or co-working spaces blew all over the world because a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves working at home and being lonely and not interacting with people. Or if you're working from home, I mean, you're all now experiencing it. You don't even know when to stop working. You just keep working until you burn the candle, or you're just going crazy. There's no variety in your thinking. Or if you have kids, I mean, the heroes that are raising kids at home, I salute you. You don't know how to separate. So a lot of people started working on the co-working space. And as you can see here on the right, you've got somebody there in a co-working group with a child, because they have to work. So what I've found with the co-working group, and because I'm doing a PhD, I've been in co-working spaces I wake up at 5 in the morning and I'm working with somebody in a co-writing group, and I work until like 7 in the morning. So I get my 2 hours daily working with somebody who's got a common vision, and that inspires me. So with what we're doing, what I would do with my partner, we basically have a morning co-working session also after my 8 o'clock. We do 2 hours just checking in. And also there's a lot of virtual co-working group. You can set this up via WhatsApp. You can set it via Zoom, as you can see, if you've got enough data. You can even set it up via SMS. So one of my favorite ways of working with co-working groups is basically using the Pomodoro method. You can Google that, but basically the essence of it is that you get in a group for 2 hours, you set time aside, and you know that you're going to meet with a group of 10 people virtually. They're all sitting at home, focus on a specific thing that they're working on. So as I say, if you need to get your taxes and you're just procrastinating, set up a group of people that need to work on getting their taxes together. If you need to work on contracts, set up a group of people that you know that every Saturday I sit with people, and for 2 hours we'll all focus on making progress. That way you know that if you're stuck somewhere, there's somebody in the group that when you take a break, you can ask them a question. How do I do this? How do I resolve this? Or, how do I do the difficult things? As I think Mark Twain actually said that if it's your turn to eat a frog, wake up first in the morning and eat that frog. So I think co-working groups also help with that frog, like that you're not sitting there and you have to eat. So find a group that you're going to collectively eat this frog together and work with that. So I would strongly encourage, there are online co-working groups where you don't need to sign up, or you don't need to know anybody, but you can just go in, have a chat about, look, I'm here to do this, and I'm basically need inspiration. It might work for other people if you have a group of strangers or not. You might not want to be on video. Be obviously very careful when you go online with Zoom bombing and other things. But the difficult thing about this point is also we looking at virtual processes, but this can also be turned from online to offline once the lockdown sort of eases, where you can actually meet people in the library, which is quiet on a Saturday. Got a lot of community centers and community libraries, or classrooms in a school, in a local school, where you can set this up and just go in, keep quiet, work with people for 2 hours and leave, and be productive and focus. But you know that you're going to do something that not everybody wants to do, and you're not alone in it. That has worked quite nicely in terms of, it's almost like somebody called it a water cooler moment. I don't know if people that have worked in open offices. When I was young, I worked at Alexander Forbes, and it was a very new industry. And I found that every time I went to the smoking room, even though I didn't smoke, or every time I go to the water cooler, that's where people will be asking questions about where they're stuck in their work. And that's where you get a lot of solutions in company gossip most of the time. But this co-working group becomes like a water cooler moment where you can go to a collective and say, I'm stuck here, I'm working on this, what do you do? And you've got thousands of people on this co-working groups right now globally that could come back and say, hey, this is how we're doing it in America, this is how we're doing it in China, or this is how we're doing it in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, everywhere, anywhere in the world. So it's an international water cooler moment, but you can also do it with people, your community in South Africa. I think it would be nice to sort of see how it works. And if you want to join any water cooler moment, Godfrey, you can direct them into the right thing. And the overall benefits of all of this is you'll have better partnerships and alliances that you didn't even dream you could have. It's a good time to network. It's a good time to reach out. People are open, people are engaging, people are willing to share. It will also help you with adjusting your operation and business model. Obviously, a lot of people need to review how they do things. We're in the new normal, as we all said. If you're going to survive, you're going to have to review your business model. You're going to have to repurpose your services, your platforms, and everything that you have if it's not working. If you're surviving, you're just retaining that, as somebody said. Jack Ma saying, just stay alive right now, and that's what you want for your business. But it's basically being part of a community will make you realize you're not alone, but you basically can surround yourself with other people that are positive, that are surviving, but that will hold you accountable and help you improve. And I think, as the famous saying, you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So having a tribe or collective gives you an opportunity to basically surround yourself with people that will make you trade up. If you can, make sure that you're the most stupid person in those group of 5 people, so you average up. You know, you benefit from being surrounded. Don't be the smartest. If you're the smartest in the group, you're with the wrong crowd. You know, you need to move and go find a group that challenges you. So if you become the average of that 5, start at the bottom and average up, not average down. So find 5 people from today in your network, be deliberate, identify them, and work with them. But once, as I said earlier, finding this collectives or this tribe, it might be free or it might be fee-based, but incentivize the group that you're going to be with. You might be able to buy them lunch in the future. In most international advisory groups, some of them offer 0.25 of your business, which at this point, it's not doing very well. So if you find somebody who's gonna basically double your sales for a 0.25 equity, it's totally worth it. At the end of this, we're all going to collectively have experience that in the knowledge economy, we will all be selling this experience, hopefully. And with a bigger tribe or collective, you're getting referrals. Once somebody knows who your avatar is, who's your business client, it's also easy that when you work in a community, people are able to refer clients or networks or people or open doors for you. If you're working, you're getting endorsements, which at this point, it might also be good to be collecting endorsements. This you also will get from another tribe that I didn't include, is like your customers that you need to keep now and work with. You know, and it's a good time to work with them and make sure that you're getting endorsement, referrals, or experience, which is can be converted into equity much later on. And basically, ultimately, you're getting time from your tribe, which is, if you had an hour and you're spending an hour with 10 smart people, that's 10 hours crunched into 10 hours of brilliance. And that's basically the reward that you'll get working with a tribe. And I'll say, ultimately, also, if you're creating a tribe, don't look for cheerleaders. Don't look for people that look at you in awe. You know, look for people that will tell you the truth, people that will bring their expertise and perspective that you don't have. So be very deliberate on how you create that tribe. And that's where I will end.